Welcome to another edition of Loco Lawyers. And in this one, we have the most loco of all lawyers, Kimberly Motley. Episode number 1 identified Loevy Loevy Law Group as the loco lawyer of the day. However, Kimberly Motley is going to one-up them because the lawsuit filed by the Loevy Loevy Group was used by Kimberly Motley to write her own lawsuit for you-know-who, Gaige Grosskreutz. That's right, Gaige Grosskreutz is suing pretty much the same people that John Huber was suing. And of course, Loevy Loevy Law Group was John Huber's legal team. So here's what happened. So Kimberly Motley is representing Gaige Grosskreutz, wants to sue the pants off the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department and the Kenosha Police Department. And, you know, writing those lawsuits is hard, man. You got to use proper English and all that kind of stuff. So Kimberly thought, well, what's a good way to do this? How about if I just take the lawsuit that Loevy Loevy Law Group wrote for John Huber and I'll just use it for my client? And that's exactly what she did. So if you read Kimberly Motley's lawsuit filed on behalf of Gaige Grosskreutz, you'll notice about 70% of the content is actually from John Huber's lawsuit written by Loevy Loevy. Yes, I'm not making this up. So I wonder what that conversation must have sounded like. I can just imagine Kimberly Motley calling them up and asking them, like, I have this assignment due. The judge wants this lawsuit in his chambers by this Friday, and it's so hard. And I was wondering, how about letting me have yours? I would like just to look at it, and then maybe that'll give me some ideas. No, I'm not going to steal part of it. Give me a break. I just want to look at it. Come on. Can we just let me look at it? Okay, I promise not to steal any of it. Okay, so we're going to now look at that lawsuit and have some really good laughs because it's quite extraordinary. Now, I am not going to read the lawsuit because 70% of the lawsuit is actually the same as what we found in the John Huber lawsuit. So you can always go back to Loco Lawyer number 1 if you want to know what's in the contents. However, what I'm going to do is point out how Kimberly Motley changed it. The way she did is very telling. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dredd Show.
All right, here we go. In the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. And to her credit, she changed the spelling of Wisconsin to something that is actually correct. The original lawsuit actually misspelled the name of the state in the title. I am not kidding you. But at any rate, Wisconsin here is spelled correctly. And of course, Gaige Grosskreutz is the plaintiff. And one of the things that she does differently is she thought to herself, you know, that introduction by Loevy Loevy is so boring. Let's go back and take a look at it. And, you know, number 1, this case involves the tragic death of Anthony Huber, a beloved son and community member. Boring. So she thought, wow, how can we spice this thing up to grab the audience's attention? And so she starts off her lawsuit with a quote, "We appreciate you guys. We really do." And now that raises suspense amongst the reader, wondering, what's this all about? Well, let's read on. These were the words of Kenosha law enforcement officers, words of encouragement, appreciation, and thanks, spoken to Kyle Rittenhouse and a band of white nationalist vigilantes on the evening of August 25th, 2020. Hey, Kimberly Motley, you're not writing a novel. You're writing a lawsuit. This is a legal document. And this kind of tricks, like starting off with a quote like that, yeah, that's really best left for blogs. Now, she does start off with some of her own original content here. Earlier in the evening, Kenosha law enforcement officers and white nationalist militia persons discussed and coordinated strategy. It was not a mistake that Kyle Rittenhouse would kill 2 people and maim a third on that evening. It was a natural consequence of the actions of the Kenosha Police Department and Kenosha Sheriff's Office in deputizing a roving militia to protect property and assist in maintaining order. And of course, in the last episode, I talked about the fact that nobody was deputized here. Come on. Deputizing a person is an actual official act, and nobody was deputized. And in fact, Sheriff Beth stated that he thought that deputizing locals would be ludicrous, okay? So the jurisdiction and venue is word for word identical between the 2 versions. Okay, so she wasn't no fool. She's just going to copy and paste it. Things get very interesting when we look at the facts. Now, you might look at this and say, oh, wait a minute here. I'll go back to the original Huber lawsuit, and it states here that Kenosha police shoot Jacob Blake, sparking protests. Well, she decided to insert in here, police shoot Jacob Blake multiple times in the back, sparking protests. Of course, she could not be bothered to actually capitalize words in there for consistency. No, so everything's in lowercase with the stuff she added. Hey, Motley, it would only have taken you about 3 or 4 seconds to capitalize the heading properly.
That's more like, zany or goofy. Yeah.
Now, to her credit, if we go to the original Huber lawsuit, it says here on August 23rd, 2020 in Kenosha, Wisconsin, KPD officer Rustin Shesky shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times without justification. Well, guess what? She changes it to Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back by Officer Rustin Shesky, and she took out the part without justification. The Wisconsin DOJ came back and said the shooting was justified. So she had no choice but to rub that part out. That must have killed her. But she did add, the events of Mr. Blake's attack were captured on video by a bystander and have renewed our national debate on systematic racism and police brutality directed at Black Americans. Now you think, well, that should have been easy enough, right? I mean, she added on this one sentence, but she screwed it up. And the reason why is it's not systematic racism, it's systemic. The 2 words do mean different things. And so you can see how she kind of changes the words around to make it look like it's hers. Boy, have students ever done that in school? Oh yeah, so the original said, neighbors and other concerned residents of Kenosha demonstrated in protest against the shooting of Jacob Blake. Well, she made some minor changes to it. Almost immediately after the shooting, neighbors and Kenosha residents began to demonstrate in response to this police brutality. So she changes the shooting of Jacob Blake to this police brutality. See, that makes it hers. Now she can tell the judge, it's not the same. Though some of the words are different. Can't accuse me of that. And again, the same thing happens here when we look at this sentence. This is the original Huber suit. Demonstrators initially gathered at the site where Mr. Blake was shot. And she changes it to, demonstrators first gathered at the site of Mr. Blake's shooting. See, it's different. She's changed some words there. That's not plagiarism. Okay, and then she got a little tired. That's a lot of work changing those words around and so in those sentences. So the rest of this stuff is pretty much verbatim from the Huber suit. You can see here, very much the same. However, she did make one change. This is the original. It says, anti-police brutality protesters. We have to make sure that everybody understands that these weren't just ordinary protesters. These were anti-police brutality protesters. Of course, she fouls up the hyphenation because this looks like it's anti-police brutality protesters. Like these are brutality protesters that are anti-police. So whatever. Now, I didn't really pick on this heading in my first episode, but I should have. It states, defendants know armed individuals plan to patrol Kenosha and have threatened harm to citizens. This is from the Loevy Loevy Group. Guys, when you write these headings, they're supposed to be short. they're supposed to just basically summarize what's going to be following. You don't write the entire thought out in a heading. And of course, we couldn't have expected Kimberly Motley to pick up on that, and so she retained the original. So the rest of this is all pretty much verbatim from the Huber lawsuit. So her heading here, Rittenhouse shoots Gaige Grosskreutz and 2 others. Well, she just took the original header and changed Anthony Huber to Gaige Grosskreutz. And you may be thinking, this is all verbatim from the lawsuit by John Huber. No difference. Okay, but it is kind of interesting to note number 44, where she declares Anthony Huber was a hero. That's pretty nice of her, man. She really recognizes Anthony Huber's attempts to save the citizens of Kenosha. And where did she get that? Well, obviously, it was in the original lawsuit filed by John Huber. And you would expect it to be in that lawsuit. Actually, it doesn't belong in any lawsuit. This is not a statement of fact. It's a mere opinion. It's unsubstantiated. But at least this is a lawsuit filed by Anthony's father. She decides to keep it in here. Okay, that's very nice of her. But wait, just wait for it. All right, so we go ahead and scroll on down. Number 46, seeing this murder, Gaige Grosskreutz. Now keep in mind, Gaige Grosskreutz is Kimberly Motley's client. This is a lawsuit filed on his behalf. Gaige Grosskreutz approached a still-seated Rittenhouse. Grosskreutz put his hands in the air in an effort to show that he was not attacking Rittenhouse. What a guy! Such a good guy. And Rittenhouse instead shot at him, thankfully missing his head in central mass, but unfortunately striking Grosskreutz in the arm. Grosskreutz sustained serious injuries and lost 90% of his right bicep. As a true medic and not someone running around with an AR-15 claiming to be a medic, Grosskreutz had a tourniquet in his medic bag. But for his training as an EMT, Grosskreutz would have likely been Rittenhouse's third killing. Nonetheless, Grosskreuz's life has been changed immeasurably. Now let's take a look at the original. It says, after Anthony was shot, Gaige Grosskreutz approached Rittenhouse with his hands up, pleading with him to stop his shooting rampage. And you'll notice that in Kimberly Motley's suit, she doesn't mention that part. Why? It's so patently ridiculous. She knew she wasn't going to get away with that one. At no point did Gaige Grosskreutz plead with Kyle Rittenhouse to stop the shooting. But notice something that is not in Kimberly Motley's lawsuit. If you go back to the original by Huber, you have the statement, Anthony Huber was a hero. And you would think, well, Kimberly Motley would put something like that in there for Gaige, right? After all, she kept the Anthony Huber was a hero statement. But if you go back to Kimberly Motley's lawsuit, at no point does she make such a declaration. Here, she has Anthony Huber was a hero, but she never says anything like that for Gaige. Guess what, Gaige? Not even your own lawyer thinks you're a hero.
I'm crazy. I'm the loco one.
All right, so number 52, under defendants authorized Rittenhouse's shootings, which they did not. They did not authorize it. They may not have done anything to stop it, but they didn't authorize it. That's insane. And no judge is going to look at that and take that seriously. At any rate, it says here, number 52, defendants did nothing to stop Rittenhouse's illegal conduct. They did not arrest him, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? That is exactly verbatim the same as from Huber's lawsuit. Again, copied and pasted wholesale. So we can skip down. One thing I kind of noticed here, it says here, they, which is the police, can be heard over loudspeakers in their armored vehicles, ordering the protesters to disperse. This is the last warning. You will disperse, and this area is closed. You are trespassing. Leave now. The grammar in there is absolutely horrendous.
Hey, I'm the most local person in here.
But you can't blame Kimberly Motley for that, because the original Huber lawsuit has it the same way. I mean, English, a good idea. You know, here we have, and the serious bodily injury to which Gaige Grosskreutz was subjected to it. It's a dangling preposition. Come on, that's high school English there. All right, we can skip over a whole bunch of content because it's the same as in the lawsuit filed by Huber. Here's an interesting deal. The heading is Racial Discrimination and Viewpoint Discrimination. If Kyle Rittenhouse were black, defendants would have acted much differently. Well, if you go to the Huber lawsuit, it's exactly the same. Now, keep in mind, Kimberly Motley is not going to remove that. This is talking her language. Never mind the fact that Gaige Grosskreutz is white. As I mentioned in episode 1, these are essays. These lawyers are writing social justice articles for public view. None of this helps their clients. Gaige Grosskreutz is not going to benefit in any way from any of this content. And once again, the statement, Jacob Blake is black, Kyle Rittenhouse is white, was copied verbatim from Huber's lawsuit. Again, this does not help their client. Things kind of take a bizarre turn here when we get into the 80s. Now keep in mind, I have skipped over a lot of content because it's identical to that in the Huber lawsuit. So we go down here and it says, defendants created an extremely and obviously dangerous and deadly environment, which led directly and foreseeably to the shootings of Anthony Huber and others. Hey, Motley, Gaige Grosskreutz is your client. Why are you mentioning Huber here? You should have said to the shootings of Gaige Grosskreutz and others, mentioning Gaige. He's your client. And she does the same thing, or number 83. Before the shootings deprived Anthony Huber and the other protesters of the basic protections. So Gaige Grosskreutz is your client and you stuff him under other protesters. Really slick. It continues. The misconduct described in this count was objectively unreasonable and was undertaken intentionally with malice, willfulness, and reckless indifference to the rights of Huber and others, lifted directly from Anthony Huber's lawsuit. But why didn't you change the name from Huber to Grosskreutz?
You are so loco!
So once again, the Loco Lawyers Club gets another member. And in fact, I think this person could become the president.
With this bandana, I welcome you to the game.
And we shouldn't let old Milo Schwab off the hook here. If he's going to put his name on something that she puts out, he should take the blame for this as well.